Welcome back to the memories of the 1970s. Today we're taking a deeply personal journey through the lives of the Bunker family. We'll see how they changed who left us in a blaze of glory and who chose a peaceful ending far from the Hollywood spotlight. This is All in the Family, the untold stories from behind the lens. Number 1. Edith Bunker, played by Jean Stapleton. Born January 19, 1923. Jean was 48 years old when she first breathed life into the dingbat of 704 Hauser Street in 1971. On screen, Edith was the high-pitched, naive moral compass of the Bunker household, often the target of Archie's loud frustrations. But the true mastery and the hidden burden of Jean's life was the secret brilliance she had to suppress to play the part. Jean was a highly sophisticated, classically trained actress with a deep, resonant voice. She spent nearly a decade intentionally straining her vocal cords and adopting a persona of simple-mindedness, a choice so convincing that much of the world forgot the intellectual powerhouse behind the apron. Her private world was anchored by a profound, singular devotion to her husband William Putch, whom she married in 1957. The defining tragedy of her personal life came in 1983 when William passed away suddenly while she was still at the height of her fame. Though she continued to work, a part of Jean's vibrant spirit was forever quieted by his absence. Despite her massive success, she lived with the weight of being typecast in gold. She was so beloved as Edith that the industry often refused to see her as anyone else. It was this struggle for artistic freedom that eventually led her to request that Edith be killed off in the spin-off series, as she felt the character's submissive nature had run its course in a changing world. In her later years, Jean retreated into a sanctuary of privacy, and the theater choosing the integrity of the stage over the hollow glitz of television. She lived with a quiet dignity, rarely seeking the spotlight for herself. Jean Stapleton passed away on May 31, 2013 at the age of 90, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $10 million. She died as a symbol of pure, unadulterated kindness, but more importantly, as a woman who proved that the most unassuming voices often belong to the strongest souls. Number 2. Archie Bunker, played by Carroll O'Connor. Born August 2, 1924. Carroll was 46 years old when he sat in the most famous armchair in America. While Archie Bunker became a symbol of loud, narrow-minded prejudice, the man behind the character was a compassionate, highly educated intellectual who spent his life as the polar opposite of his on-screen persona. But the true tragedy of Carroll's life was a heartbreak that no amount of fame or Emmy Awards could ever heal. His heart belonged to his wife Nancy Fields, whom he met at the University of Montana and married in 1951. Their lives were forever changed in Rome while Carroll was filming Cleopatra. There they adopted a 6-day-old boy named Hugh. As Hugh grew, Carroll tried to shield him and even gave him a role as Officer Jameson on In the Heat of the Night, but he had to watch helplessly as his son was consumed by a long, agonizing battle with drug addiction. The world stopped for Carroll in 1995 when Hugh tragically took his own life. This loss transformed Carroll from a television icon into a grieving warrior. He didn't retreat into silence. Instead, he used his voice to launch a public war against drug dealers. He successfully lobbied for the Hugh O'Connor Memorial Law, a landmark piece of legislation allowing families of addicts to sue dealers for treatment costs and damages. His final years were spent in a state of quiet reflection and philanthropy, donating over $1.5 million to his alma mater and teaching screenwriting to young students, passing on the wisdom of a man who had seen both the highest peaks of stardom and the deepest valleys of sorrow. Carroll O'Connor passed away from a heart attack on June 21, 2001, at the age of 76, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $25 million. He died as a father who had turned his personal agony into a shield for other families, proving that even the loudest voices on television are often driven by the most tender and broken hearts. Number 3. Sally Struthers as Gloria Stivic. Born July 28, 1947. Sally was just 23 when she became the emotional bridge of the Bunker household. As Gloria, she was the blonde daughter caught between her father's bigotry and her husband's idealism. But behind that famous high-pitched voice was a young woman who would soon face the brutal, often cruel reality of Hollywood's double standards. Her personal life was anchored by her marriage to psychiatrist William C. Rader in 1977. Though the union ended in divorce in 1983, it gave her the greatest joy of her life, her daughter Samantha. However, as a single mother navigating a shifting industry, Sally faced a unique kind of public tragedy. In the years following the show, she became the face of Child Fund International pleading for the lives of starving children. Instead of being hailed for her compassion, she became a target of relentless satirical mockery in pop culture. A heartbreaking irony for a woman using her fame to save lives, while the world chose to laugh at her vulnerability. The Gloria of her youth was eventually replaced by a woman of profound resilience. She found a second act in the theater, and as the beloved Babette Dell in Gilmore Girls, proving that she could command the screen on her own terms far from the shadow of 704 Hauser Street. She traded the child star perception for the respected title of a veteran performer who refused to be silenced by critics of her image or her age. Sally is 78 years old. She remains a working actress and a devoted mother living with an estimated net worth of $6 million. She stands as a survivor of an era that tried to turn her heart into a punchline, proving that the most enduring legacy isn't the applause of the past, but the quiet strength it takes to keep helping others when the world is looking the other way. Number 4. Rob Reiner as Michael Meathead Stivic. Born March 6, 1947. Rob was just 23 years old when he became the face of the American counterculture in 1971. As Michael Stivic, the long-haired liberal son-in-law, he spent 7 years locked in an iconic ideological war with Archie Bunker. His performance was more than just comedy. It was a mirror to a divided nation, earning him 2 Emmys and establishing him as a powerhouse creative who would eventually build a $200 million legacy as one of Hollywood's greatest directors. Yet the final chapter of Rob Reiner's life was a tragedy more harrowing than any script he ever directed. Just months ago, on December 14, 2025, the world was shaken when Rob and his wife Michelle were discovered dead in their home. At 78 years old, a man who spent his life analyzing the beauty of human relationships was silenced in an act of unthinkable violence. The horror was deeply personal. Their youngest son, Nick Reiner, was arrested and charged with their murder. This wasn't a story of simple malice, but one of a family's long private agony. Nick had been diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder in 2020, and the Reiners had spent years quietly struggling to support him through the fog of mental illness. As of April 2026, the fallout has left the remaining family fractured. While siblings Jake and Rami initially sought high-level legal defense for Nick, the emotional weight became too great. In February 2026, they made the agonizing decision to withdraw all financial support for his defense, leaving the case to a public defender. Rob Reiner passed away with a net worth of $200 million, but his true ending was a sobering reminder of the fragility of the human mind. He remains a legend who proved that the most intense arguments are won with the heart, even when that heart is ultimately broken by the very people it tried most to save. He was the intellectual soul of the Bunker household, whose real-life exit was a silent, tragic curtain call that no one could have predicted. Number 5. Lionel Jefferson, played by Mike Evans. Born November 3, 1949. Mike was just 21 years old when he brought a sharp, quiet brilliance to the role of the Bunker's neighbor in 1971. As Lionel Jefferson, he was more than just the kid next door. He was the first person to truly master the art of navigating Archie Bunker's narrow-minded world with a smile and a secret intellectual edge. But behind the scenes, Mike was a man of even greater ambition, possessing a creative fire that would eventually reshape the landscape of television forever. The defining chapter of Mike's life was his daring decision to leave the security of a hit show to build his own empire. Alongside Eric Monti, he co-created Good Times, a series that gave a raw, honest voice to the African-American experience. He was a pioneer who understood that true power in Hollywood didn't just lie in front of the camera, but in the hands of the person writing the story. Yet his personal life was a sanctuary he guarded fiercely. He was a devoted father to his 2 daughters, finding his greatest fulfillment far from the red carpets and the applause of strangers. The quiet tragedy of Mike Evans was a battle fought in the shadows. In his mid-50s, he was diagnosed with throat cancer. A cruel irony for a man who had used his voice to bridge cultural divides and create legendary characters. He faced his illness with the same dignified silence that characterized his later years, refusing to let his struggle become a public spectacle. Mike Evans passed away on December 14, 2006 at the age of 57, with an estimated net worth of $2 million. He died at his mother's home in 29 Palms, California, leaving behind a world that still laughs at the sitcoms he helped build. Number 6. Isabel Sanford as Louise "Wheezy" Jefferson. Born August 29, 1917. Isabel was 54 years old when she first walked into 704 Hauser Street in 1971. As Louise, she was the patient moral compass who balanced the explosive egos of Archie Bunker and her husband George. But the hidden story of Isabel's life was not one of instant fame. It was a grueling, decades-long battle against a world that tried to tell her it was too late for a woman like her. The true emotional weight of Isabel's journey lay in the 30 years of shadows before she became a household name. A single mother who fled an unhappy marriage in New York, she moved to Los Angeles with almost nothing, working as a cleaning lady and a daycare provider while fighting for bit parts in theater. For most of her life, her reality wasn't the deluxe apartment in the sky, but the exhaustion of manual labor and the fear that her dreams would die unheard. She lived through the indignity of a segregated industry, proving that her quiet authority was built on a foundation of real-world hardship. Her historic breakthrough in 1981, when she became the first Black woman to win the Emmy for Lead Actress in a Comedy, was a bittersweet triumph. It was a victory achieved at age 64, a moment of validation that arrived only after a lifetime of invisibility. Despite the glitz of the Jeffersons, she remained a woman of profound humility, never forgetting the decades she spent scrubbing floors while waiting for her voice to be heard. She redefined the image of Black motherhood on television, trading stereotypes for a dignity that was earned, not given. Isabel Sanford passed away on July 9, 2004, at the age of 86 following complications from surgery. She died with an estimated net worth of $3 million, leaving behind a legacy that remains a beacon for anyone chasing a dream in the twilight of their life. Number 7. Barney Hefner, played by Alan Melvin. Born February 18, 1923. Alan was 49 years old when he became a permanent fixture at Kelsey's Bar and the Bunker household in 1972. As Barney Hefner, Archie's best friend and neighbor, he was the ultimate everyman. The guy who could trade insults, share a beer, and offer a sympathetic ear to Archie's constant grumbling. But behind that familiar, friendly face was a vocal chameleon and one of the most hardworking, invisible stars in Hollywood history. The hidden depth of Alan Melvin's life was his incredible versatility. While millions knew him as Barney or Sam the Butcher from the Brady Bunch, his true gift lay in his voice. He was the soul behind iconic characters like Magilla Gorilla, proving that he could command the imagination of children and adults alike without ever being seen. Yet the most poignant part of his story wasn't his fame, but his extraordinary stability in a town defined by fleeting moments. Alan shared a rare, legendary 64-year marriage with his wife, Amalia Melvin. In an industry where relationships often crumble under the spotlight, Alan's life was anchored by a quiet, unwavering devotion that he guarded far more than his career. His final years were a peaceful retreat from the camera. He spent his retirement in Brentwood, California, watching as his era of television became a cornerstone of American culture. There is a quiet beauty in his story. Unlike the tragic spirals of many of his contemporaries, Alan found his fulfillment in the simple consistency of being a husband, father, and a reliable friend. He was a man who didn't need the leading role to feel complete, finding his purpose in the craftsmanship of the supporting life. Alan Melvin passed away from cancer on January 17, 2008, at the age of 84, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $1 million. He died as one of the most recognizable faces and voices in television history, a man who proved that being the best friend on screen is often a reflection of being a man of great character off-screen. Number 8. Jason Wingreen as Harry Snowden. Born October 9, 1920. Jason was 56 when he began pouring drinks at Kelsey's Bar. As Harry, he was the patient, silent observer of Archie Bunker's chaos, a steady presence in a world of loud opinions. Yet Jason's most iconic contribution was a secret that echoed through a galaxy far, far away. He was the original voice of Boba Fett in Star Wars. For years, he remained uncredited, a silent legend hidden behind a helmet, proving that some of the greatest impacts in Hollywood are made by those who never seek the spotlight. A U.S. Navy veteran of World War II, Jason lived a life defined by discipline and deep personal loyalty. He shared a 50-year marriage with his wife Harriet, finding his true purpose in their quiet life together rather than the hollow glitz of fame. He outlived nearly the entire cast of the show, witnessing the world change from the front lines of war to the peak of sci-fi stardom with a quiet, observant dignity. Jason Wingreen passed away on Christmas Day 2015 at the remarkable age of 95, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $1,500,000. He died as a humble giant of character, acting a man who proved you don't need your name and lights to be immortal. He remains the steady soul of the neighborhood bar and the voice of a cinematic icon, a reminder that the most lasting echoes are often the quietest ones. Number 9, Stephanie Mills, played by Danielle Brisebois. Born June 28, 1969. Danielle was just 9 years old when she entered the loud, contentious world of 704 Hauser Street in 1978. As Stephanie, the abandoned niece whom Archie and Edith took in, she became the unexpected emotional anchor for the bunker's later years. She was the daughter figure who finally softened Archie's hardened edges, proving that even a man built on prejudice could find room in his heart for a child who had nowhere else to go. But the true wonder of Danielle's life is that she didn't just survive the child star trap, but she completely outgrew it. The hidden tragedy for many child actors is the desperate struggle to stay relevant as their youth fades, but Danielle chose a different path. She recognized that her true voice wasn't in front of the camera, but in the melodies she composed in the shadows. In a remarkable act of reinvention, she walked away from acting to become a powerhouse in the music industry. She became a member of the New Radicals and evolved into a Grammy and Academy Award-nominated songwriter, co-writing global hits like Unwritten. She traded the frantic applause of sitcom audiences for the quiet, enduring power of the recording studio. Her personal life has been a sanctuary of stability, far removed from the tabloid scandals that often haunt former child stars. She married musician Nick Lashley in 1994, building a life centered on creative integrity rather than Hollywood artifice. In 2026, Danielle is 56 years old, standing as a rare symbol of Hollywood triumph. She proved that your first act doesn't have to define your life, and that the greatest success is found when you have the courage to follow your passion into the unknown. Number 10. Sherman Hemsley as George Jefferson. Born February 1, 1938. Sherman was 35 years old when he introduced the world to the explosive, high-energy strut of George Jefferson. On screen, he was the loud, arrogant, and hilariously ambitious neighbor who refused to be looked down upon by anyone. Yet the man behind that bombastic persona was a total mystery, a painfully shy, deeply introverted soul who spent his life hiding from the very spotlight he had captured. The hidden tragedy of Sherman's life was his profound, self-imposed solitude. In an industry that thrives on connection and ego, Sherman lived like a ghost. He never married and had no children, creating a life of such intense privacy that even his closest co-stars knew almost nothing about his world outside the studio. While George Jefferson was moving on up, with a large family and a loud voice, Sherman was quietly retreating into himself. He lived a life of singular focus, finding his only true peace in jazz music and his own company, far from the chaotic energy of the characters that made him a millionaire. His final chapter was perhaps the most heart-wrenching. He spent his last years in El Paso, Texas, battling lung cancer in near-total seclusion. When he passed away on July 24, 2012, at the age of 74, his death was followed by a bitter months-long legal battle that denied him peace even in the grave. Because a man claiming to be his half-brother challenged his will, Sherman's body was kept in a funeral home refrigerator for nearly 4 months before he could finally be buried. His legacy was left in the hands of his only close friend and business partner, Flora Enchinton, the only person who truly saw the man behind the mask. Sherman Hemsley died with an estimated net worth of $300,000, a modest sum for a television giant. He remains the strutting heart of a generation, but his story is a somber reminder of the loneliness that can hide behind the laughter. Number 11. Danny Dayton as Hank Pivnik. Born November 20th, 1923. Danny was 48 years old when he became a permanent fixture on the bar stool at Kelsey's in 1971. As Hank Pivnik, he was the silent, nodding witness to Archie Bunker's social tirades, the quintessential regular who gave the show its gritty blue-collar soul. But behind that quiet glass of beer was a man of explosive talent. A veteran of the Broadway stage and a director who understood the mechanics of storytelling far better than his character ever let on. Before he was a sitcom background fixture, he was a high-energy performer and director who had navigated the peak of the 1950s entertainment world. His journey was a masterclass in the journeyman life. The resilient actor who works tirelessly for decades, often recognized as a familiar face, but rarely a household name. His private world was anchored by his marriage to Ellen Dayton, a sanctuary of stability in an industry that constantly asked him to reinvent himself for a few minutes of screen time. Battling emphysema. The man who had spent a lifetime projecting his voice to the back of theaters found his world growing smaller and more silent. He faced the end with the same professional dignity he brought to every minor role, a veteran performer who understood that the most important part of any play is the grace of the final exit. Danny Dayton passed away from emphysema on February 6, 1999, at the age of 75 with an estimated net worth of $500,000. He died in Los Angeles, leaving behind a legacy of over 300 television appearances.